It's April 22nd. I got my tomato trellis up yesterday, and I wanted to do a quick walkthrough of all the different varieties that I'm growing this year. Almost all of these I'm growing from seed from various sources. This one is a San Marzano Classic Heirloom Italian Paste tomato. This is, I'm going to attempt canning tomato puree this year for the first time. So that's why I'm growing these. This is a Brandy Boy. It is a hybrid tomato that is an improved version of the Pink Brandywine, which is notorious for catching diseases and having difficult production and being fussy with the weather. I grew this successfully last year in Pennsylvania. It produced some of the best tomatoes I've ever had. I don't know how it's going to do down here in southeastern North Carolina, but it was so good it was worth a shot. The seed source is Burpee. I purchased them from Home Depot. They sell the packets there. This is the classic Cherokee Purple. These are leftover seeds that I purchased from Home Depot last year. They're year-old seed. I grew these last year. They did pretty well for me in Pennsylvania until the heat started coming in. As soon as it started getting hot in July, the production just shut down. But they did very well in June. So these are some of the tomatoes that are putting out actual fruit before all others. So there's clusters all over the place on them. They like the cooler weather from what I've seen. This is an improved mortgage lifter. It's sold by Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. It's supposed to be the classic, it's based on the Heirloom Classic Mortgage Lifter, but with added disease resistance. And I believe it's supposed to be a redder tomato as well, and not quite as large. But I've heard good things. It has lots of flower clusters, but it hasn't put out any tomatoes yet. So it's one of the last ones to give me a tomato. I'm still waiting. This is another San Marzano. I was in Home Depot yesterday, and this caught my eye. This is one of the only tomatoes that I've purchased. It is a Bonnie Cherokee Carbon. So I did 2 minutes of research at Home Depot, and it is a cross between, well, the Cherokee Purple and the Carbon tomatoes, which are both pretty fussy tomatoes. Obviously, I've grown Cherokee Purple before. I've never grown Carbon. But what they said was the taste is very similar, and because it's hybridized, it's supposed to do a little bit better in terms of production and disease resistance. We will see. This is another Brandy Boy. This is another Cherokee Purple. And like I said, this is one of the first ones to produce really nice sized fruit. Cherokee Purple is a pretty early tomato in my experience. There's another San Marzano, another improved mortgage lifter, another San Marzano, and another Brandy Boy. So if you've noticed, I've spaced them all out pretty equally, and the reason why is because different tomatoes are resistant and susceptible to different kinds of diseases. So I didn't want it so if one tomato caught something, it would just take out everything in a row. I wanted to space them out. Now these are mostly dwarf varieties that I'm growing. My source for almost all of these were Victory Seed. This is a Fred's tie-dye, which is a cross between a dwarf wild Fred and a pink Berkeley tie-dye. This is an Adelaide Festival tomato. I forget what this is crossed between, but it's a red tomato with yellow, or is this variegated? This might be a variegated tomato, but I think it's red. This is another Fred's tie-dye. And another Adelaide Festival. This is a Rosella Purple. This is supposed to be a really great tomato. It's supposed to be a dead ringer for Cherokee Purple. This seed source was Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. These are just crazy vigorous. They were the first ones to start putting out tomatoes, even before Cherokee Purple. I forget what this is a cross between. This is a cross between, I think, Budai Torpy and I think Stump of the World. And this is supposed to produce a really nice beefsteak, Cherokee Purple like tomato. This is another Adelaide festival. Another Rosella Purple, and you can just see how early the Rosella Purples are versus all the other dwarfs. They're really spectacular. Just clusters of flowers everywhere. Nice little tomato. This is a Burpee bush steak hybrid. It is the only determinate that I am growing. It was a packet of seed I bought from Home Depot. I only planted one, and it seems to be doing really well, but it's not yielding any fruit yet. Oh, never mind. Here's one little tomato. So this is the only reason why I'm growing this is it's supposed to be really early since it's a determinate. Here I have two Genova Tomatillos that I purchased seed from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. These are all just loaded with fruit. Very vigorous. I kind of snapped this, well, this branch snapped in a windstorm, and I was able to put a little bit of electrical tape on it, and it's come back. So they are very, very strong plants. This is another Rosella Purple. You can tell by how just massive it is for a dwarf. There's a really big, ugly tomato in there. This was the first one that I planted, and obviously the cold got to it. There's some cat facing there, a lot of cat facing. But the newer tomatoes, look at that, they're just everywhere on this thing. I think I'm really gonna like this plant and plant it again. This is a Dwarf Firebird Sweet. Source was Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. Oh no, I'm sorry. The source for this was Victory Seed. This is a cross between, it's called, I think a Beauty Queen, something like that, and some red tomato. It is red with variegated yellow stripes. So it's supposed to be a sweeter tomato. We'll see how it is. This is another Fred's tie-dye. It's very large. Well, large for a dwarf. Very vigorous, lots of flowers. Another Dwarf Firebird Sweet. And another Dwarf Firebird Sweet. These are my potatoes that I've buried twice. They're just growing like weeds. And some gray zucchini. I have a few other things hidden around the yard. I had extras. Most I was able to give out to neighbors, but I have an extra Fred's tie-dye. This is supposed to be a Dwarf Firebird Sweet, but I don't think it grew true to type. It looks like a dud. It's growing in a very strange pattern. I don't know what kind of fruit it's going to put out, but I stuck it out here by itself just to see. I don't think it's going to be what was advertised. And then back behind my greenhouse, a Fred's tie-dye had the top broken off right of the main stem, just from wind. So I planted it back here in a protected location, and it has a sucker that's coming out of the top that's perfect, so it should grow a whole new top. It's going to be late behind all the other ones, but I figured why throw it out. And that's what I have. You'll see, I could swear these things are growing 1, 2, 3 inches a day. It's just crazy. I was able to trellis most of the ones I could not trellis yesterday, today. And they're all looking really good so far. I've had 7 days of almost cloudless sunny skies, and it's been wonders for the plants. But the next 2 days we're supposed to pick up something like 3 inches of rain, so I'm just going to let them go. And then when the rain clears out and everything dries off, I'll spray them down with a mixture of baking soda and neem oil. And then once that dries on the leaves, in another day or two, I'll be able to hit it with some Serenade, which is a spray I use for preventing fungus. So this is everything. If you like the video, feel free to subscribe to the channel, like or comment, share. Thanks for watching.